And to make matters worse, what we're going to do is we're going to read a bunch. So, but I'm going to go through it. And when I feel like I can kind of, it's always amazed me how preachers will say, for the sake of time, we're not going to read the Bible. For the sake of time, I'm going to do all the talking, that kind of thing. That's always been hilarious to me. But for the sake of time, we're not going to read the Bible. We actually have a lot of verses here, so I'm just going to read, and then where I feel like maybe we can skip a passage or whatever, we'll do it, right? But what I actually have to say is not a lot in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways you can take that. So we'll see, but we're going to start in John 11. And what we're going to talk about is the evolution of belief, the evolution of faith. Evolution is not a dirty word, Christians. The evolution of belief. Our belief started as... No, I'm just kidding. So I think most people would say or agree that you grow in faith, right? And as a Christian, your experiences change over the course of your life, and you encounter new experiences, and then your faith and your belief in God grows and changes. It evolves over time. That's what we're going to talk about. Verse 1, now a certain man was sick named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary, which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore his sister sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister Mary and Lazarus. When he had heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. So Jesus, he hears that he's sick, so he sticks around, right? Then after that he saith to his disciples, let us go into Judea again. His disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and goest thou thither again? And Jesus answered, Are there not 12 hours in the day? If any man walk in the day, he stumbleth not, because he seeth the light of this world. But if a man walk in the night, he stumbleth, because there is no light in him. These things said he, and after that he saith unto them, Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may wake him out of his sleep. Then said his disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. Howbeit Jesus spake of his death. But they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest in his sleep, or in sleep. Then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And I am glad for your sakes that I was not there, for to the intent ye may believe. Nevertheless, let us go unto him. Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. So they're saying, Jesus, they were wanting to stone you. Lazarus is there, he's sick. You're sticking around where you're at, getting news of Lazarus. And now you're wanting to go back where Lazarus was, because you say he's dead, but they want to stone you. And Thomas is like, we'll just go with you. And if we die, we die. Okay? Verse 17. Then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs off. And many of the Jews came to Martha and Mary to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him. But Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. Jesus saith unto her, Thy brother shall rise again. Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus saith unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? She saith unto him, Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world. And when she had so said, she went her way, and called Mary her sister secretly, saying, The Master is come and calleth for thee. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came unto him. Now Jesus was not yet come into the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. The Jews then, which were with her in the house, and comforted her, when they saw Mary, that she rose up hastily and went out, they followed her, saying, She goeth unto the grave to weep there. Then when Mary was come where Jesus was and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. When Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in the spirit, was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. Jesus wept. Then said the Jews, Behold, how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man, which opened the eyes of the blind, have caused that even this man should not have died? Jesus therefore, again groaning in himself, cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. And my cameras are going off here. It was a cave, and a stone lay. And Jesus said, Take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith, Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he had been dead 4 days. Jesus saith unto her, Said I not unto thee that if thou wouldest believe, thou shouldst see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. And I knew that thou hearest me always. But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound with a napkin. Jesus saith unto them, Loose him and let him go. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary, and had seen the things which Jesus did, believed on him. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees, and told them what things Jesus had done. Then gathered the chief priest and the Pharisees a council, and said, What do we? For this man doeth many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. Now remember, the Jews and the Romans were kind of coexisting in this kind of political state that they were living in, and the Jews were allowed to have their own council, and the Romans, but they were kind of part of the Roman empires, if you will. So there was this conflict going on. So they're saying, if the Romans feel that like we're a real threat, ideological threat to them, then they'll do away with our nation. They won't let us coexist. So they were nervous, and that's what Jesus was threatening, the high Jews, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, if you will. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. Now what he's saying there is like actually saying, let's get rid of this political threat. What he's actually doing is prophesying, saying one man's going to die for this nation of people, and he's going to bring everybody together. Sometimes what you say, you don't always mean what you think you mean. Let's go to John 14. Christ comforts his disciples in verse 1, Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also, and whither I go, and the way ye know. Thomas saith unto him, Lord, we know not whither thou goest, and how can we know the way? John 14, verse number 6, if you're wondering. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. If you had known me, you should have known my Father also, and from henceforth you know him, and have seen him. Philip saith unto him, Lord, show us the Father, and it sufficeth us. Jesus saith unto him, Have I been so long time with you, and yet hast thou not known me, Philip? He that hath sent me have seen the Father. And how sayest thou then, Show us the Father? Then we're going to go to chapter 20. So now we've seen this progression here. In both instances, you not only see the lack of faith and belief, but a lack of knowledge as well. They just don't know, right? They don't know some of these things. Jesus is teaching them. That's the point, right? He's walking around on the earth with a bunch of people following him, and he's teaching them. It's all new to them. So it's easy for us in the year 2017, with thousands of years of church history behind us, to say that they were weak or they were whatever, when in reality they just didn't know. I mean, it was just new. It was new to them. So we see this in Lazarus. We see this when he's trying to comfort the disciples. He's talking about the afterlife. He's talking about heaven. You realize that the Jews were split on the belief of the resurrection and the afterlife. So this was some contention in Judaism. So not all Jews believed in the resurrection and the afterlife. So that was a problematic doctrine anyway, even in Judaism, and especially when you move over into Christianity, where now they're saying, oh, we have a Messiah. He wasn't the first person to say he was the Messiah. If you read the Dead Sea Scrolls and you look in the Dead Sea Scrolls, there's tons of people who have claimed to be the Messiah. And in actuality, the Dead Sea Scrolls, that whole settlement, some believe, was part of a settlement following someone who said they were the Messiah. So this is not a new idea, some guy saying I'm the Messiah. So they're putting themselves out there. He's a threat to Judaism. Judaism is a threat to the Roman Empire, right? So this is a very kind of shaky situation, if you will. Now Jesus has been crucified. So now the Jews get rid of the threat, they think. And in so doing, the Romans have no threat. Remember, the Romans are brought into it, and Pilate washes his hands, the whole deal. So now Jesus has been buried, and we go to John chapter 20, verse number 1. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre. Then she runneth and cometh to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and saith unto them, They have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre. Now, what I really want you to pay attention to in the next passage, not verse, but this whole passage that we're going to read, is I want you to notice the progressions of all the characters involved. Okay? Now, when you preach, we tend, and teach even, especially in the modern church movement and all the ADHD, and I'm ADHD and all that, but we do it in these really small passages, and we lose. So we're able to break this passage that we're going to read, which is like 30 verses, and in like 4 different thoughts, right? And then sometimes you lose the actual thread through the continuity that's going through all 31 verses. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre. Then she runneth, and cometh to Simon Peter, and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and saith unto them, They have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre. We not know where they have laid him. Peter therefore went forth, and that other disciple, and came to the sepulchre. So they ran both together, and the other disciple did outrun Peter, and came first to the sepulchre. And he, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen clothes lying, yet went he not in. Then cometh Simon Peter, following him, and went into the sepulchre, and seeth the linen clothes lie, and the napkin, and that was about his head, not lying with linen. Now this all sounds really familiar, doesn't it? Right? Didn't we just read about this in John 11? Right? And the napkin, that was about his head, not lying with the linen clothes, but wrapped together in a place by itself. Then went in also that other disciple, which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed. He saw and believed. For as yet they knew not the Scripture. There's that lack of knowledge again, that he must rise again from the dead. Then the disciples went away again into their own home. But Mary stood without at the sepulchre weeping. And as she wept, she stooped down, looked into the sepulchre, and seeth 2 angels in white sitting, the one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Jesus had lain. And they said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? And she saith unto them, Because they have taken away my Lord. And I know not where they had taken him. So she doesn't know they're angels. Obviously, these are just people that she's talking to. And when she had thus said, she turned herself back and saw Jesus standing, and knew not that it was Jesus. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be the gardener, saith unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus saith unto her, Mary. She turned herself and said unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master. Jesus saith unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren, and say to them, I ascended unto my Father, and to your Father, and to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene came and told the disciples that she had seen the Lord, and that he had spoken these things unto her. Then, the same day, at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst, and said unto them, Peace be unto you. And when he had so said, he showed unto them his hands and his side. Then were the disciples glad when they saw the Lord. Then were the disciples glad when they saw the Lord. Then said Jesus to them again, Peace be unto you, as my Father has sent me, even so send I you. And when he had said this, he breathed on them, and said unto them, Receive ye the Holy Ghost. Whosoever sins you remit, they are remitted unto them, and whosoever sins you retain, they are retained. But Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, we've already read about, was not with them when Jesus came. The other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, Except I shall see in his hands the print of the nails, and put my finger in the print of the nails, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. And after 8 days again, his disciples were within, and Thomas with them. Then came Jesus, the doors being shut again, and stood in the midst, and said, Peace be unto you. Then saith he to Thomas, Reach hither thy finger, and behold my hands, and reach hither thy hand, and thrust it in my side, and be not faithless, but believing. And Thomas answered and said unto him, My Lord, my God. Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they which have not seen, but yet have believed. And many other signs truly did Jesus in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written, that ye might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing ye might have life through his name. Now, that's all we're going to read. Now, I'm going to read something different. So, belief is not static. Belief, it's not like you become a Christian and then everything, all your faith, all your belief just stays the same for the rest of your life. And you have this faith that you just keep tapping into, for whatever you need. Your belief is changing, it's evolving. There's a human element to it in the sense that we have weaknesses, right? It changes because the situations we find ourselves in change. Therefore, what we consider to be absolute belief might be challenged by new circumstances. So we think, okay, now I have this absolute faith. I have this absolute belief that cannot be challenged. And if the government comes and I'm going to die for Jesus and the whole deal, the same thing that Peter said, the same thing that Thomas said, the same thing that all these people said. But your belief gets challenged by a new experience, gets challenged by a new circumstance. Being aware of these changes in your life promotes growth and stability because we constantly have to look to a more stable supply of faith. So if we are aware that our belief is constantly evolving, and we are aware in the fact that trying to rely on our own source of faith, our own source of belief, does not produce stability, then we tend to put more faith in God in that way, like saying, okay, like God, not only do I need a faith in you, but you are the source of my faith because you have to provide it in time of need. So this gets us past ourselves and eliminates any notion that belief or faith can come from a human vessel, can solely come from a human vessel. In these passages, we find believers who struggled with the idea that they might have to continue in their faith apart from a physical Messiah. They're living with Jesus. They're walking, they're talking, they're fellowshipping with Jesus, right? And now they have to continue this same faith without a Messiah, right? Now this might be, they struggle with the idea that they might have to continue in their faith apart from a physical Messiah. This might be attributed to the fact that they had been recently rescued from a religion that only looked forward to a Messiah and relied upon human traditions to propel the religion. Now this is not to say that pre-Christianity Judaism was weak or that it was even flawed, even though the advent of the Pharisees and the focus outside the Torah might suggest that it was flawed. I only mean to highlight the lack of a bodily Messiah. So the religion is constantly looking forward to a Messiah. There's no human Messiah walking around. There's this group of people and they're giving out these ideas and they're saying there's a Messiah out there. He's coming, These Christians only knew Christianity as it was attached to a bodily Messiah who performed miracles. We saw that. We read it. They were talking about it. Can this guy who healed the blind, can he do these other things? Christianity as a belief had to evolve past that bodily Messiah. Jesus couldn't be with them all the time bodily. They had to have something that they carried past that. All right? Thomas was not unique in this struggle, but for some reason, it's doubting Thomas. It's always doubting Thomas. But reading these passages, do you get the sense that Thomas was the only person doing this? I mean, honestly, do you really get the sense of that? I just don't see how you can read all of those passages together and then come out the other side saying, man, Thomas was really unique in the way he doubted. In fact, all of these accounts demonstrate the disciples and Mary and Martha's hesitancy. Whether you're talking about Lazarus, whether you're talking about where are we going after we die, whether you're talking about the bodily resurrection of their Messiah. So who was Thomas, and how did Thomas change? In John 11, Thomas is willing to die with Jesus. Jesus will face almost certain persecution if he returns to Lazarus, but Thomas is willing to go. Now consider what Thomas learned in chapters 14 and 20 after he said that he was willing to die. Thomas in chapter 11 had very little faith and or knowledge of the consequence or the eternal implications of his faith. So he is willing to die with Jesus without a stable belief in the resurrection or Jesus' ability to even raise him from the dead. So to me, that demonstrates an even stronger commitment. He doesn't even completely understand the resurrection. He doesn't even fully believe that Jesus can resurrect Lazarus from the dead. He doesn't even really fully believe that Jesus is going to resurrect himself from the dead, but yet he's still willing to die. That's a pretty strong commitment, right? Now we might say, well, there's something better on the other side. There's the great bus is going to take us away, and we're going to do whatever. And we have that kind of hope that's attached to the fact that we can be martyrs somehow, right? And that's attached to it. Now imagine taking all that away, where you don't have a stable belief in the resurrection. You don't have a stable belief in the fact that Jesus can perform ultimate miracles, things like that. You take that away, and then all it is like, I might die tomorrow for you, and I have no real hope of a resurrection in that sense. And then it starts that's a strong commitment to make. So even in their lack of knowledge and their lack of belief, there was still a really strong commitment there. Only in John 14 does Jesus seemingly start breaking through to his disciples. In John 20, it doesn't seem like he had a lot of success breaking through at all. Every single encounter in John chapter 20 seemingly required sight before belief. Oh, you know what? They saw him and then they believed. You see that all over and over again with all of these people. It's just like they saw him and then they believed. And then they talked to him and then they believed. And then they saw the prince and then they believed. And it's just like all the way through. This lack of belief, however, did not deter the continuation of Christianity. They were still meeting, right? Now it says they were meeting out of the fear of the Jews, but they were still a unified community, if you will. They were still considered a viable threat to the Jews, as we saw in John 11, 48 and 52, when they're saying we need to get rid of this threat. They still feared resistance from the Jewish community. They were fearing for the Jews, or, that the Jews would react. So their belief was enough to kind of keep them unified and together, along with the fear. But it had not evolved enough to meet the demands of the present trauma. The present trauma is they've killed Jesus, and they've taken his body. That's new to them. This has never happened before, right? That's new. It's a new trauma. And now they have to have this growth in their belief, this growth in their faith. In chapter 20, Jesus lets them know that people will believe without seeing. Right? That's why he tells Thomas, blessed are those who can believe without seeing. You guys get to see everything he's telling them. You've seen me, and you've seen the Father. You've seen, and he's like, one day people will believe without seeing. Then, according to church history and legend, if you will, Thomas, after Jesus is gone, goes on to travel outside the Roman Empire as far away as India to work as a missionary. So this obviously required the belief of not only Thomas, but of people who had not or could not observe what Thomas had seen or needed to see to submit his own belief. So now Thomas is saying, okay, I saw and I believed. And he's walked with Jesus, he's talked with Jesus, Jesus dies, Jesus is resurrected. Thomas is like, now I believe. Then he goes out, now he has to tell a bunch of people who can't see that. And then, so now Christianity has to evolve past that. We don't have a physical Messiah anymore. Our belief has to be stronger than Jesus walking around for 33 years. Okay? The evolution of our belief as Christians follows this same pattern. We are born into our faith with faith like a child. That faith is simple yet and pure in that way, but it is unstable and untested. We check our faith as best we can against the few experiences we encounter along the way, very early on in our Christian life. We encounter things and then we test our faith, this unstable faith that we have. As those experiences change and become more severe in our life, Our faith is tested anew each time. We often come out of the other side of this trial, this trouble, this new trauma, saying that our faith has somehow been restored. That's familiar, right? People say that. Man, I came out the other side, my faith has been restored. My faith has been restored. But I think that is a misrepresentation. Our belief through trauma, through new experiences, Vic, our belief through these new traumas, these new experiences, has expanded into corners of our life that until that moment required no belief in God. So we have these pockets of our life that we kind of subconsciously, we don't need God in this area. We don't need God here. We don't need God here. We have this childlike faith. I believe that God can save me. I believe I'm going to heaven when I die. The gospel, right? As you're tested, we start uncovering these dark corners of our life that now we realize requires a belief in God. And our faith starts growing into these corners, you know. So it's new trauma, but our faith isn't anew. It's not, we're not growing new faith. We're not, you know, it's just, we're just growing. We're just gaining we're just gaining more space. The faith and the belief is gaining more space. So it could seem like a restoration, but it is really just growth. It is belief and faith consuming more of us. It is us become more reliant upon belief. Then, like Thomas, we stand, we go out, and we testify to people who are foreign to our own experiences. All right? That's it. See, told you that would be quick. Now you can go home a little early. Oh. Yeah, this is... Thumbs up, yeah, that's what I was like. Well, this is like I do with students. It's like this, or this. All right. I guess we'll close in prayer. So Tim, why don't you close us in prayer?